You are watching Bengals Breakdown by Chat Sports, and I am your host, Stone Shields. Coming up on today's show, we are going game by game throughout the Bengals 2025 schedule, providing score predictions. Obviously, that's going to culminate to a record prediction at the end of today's show. Got the schedule last night, so figured perfect time to do this here the following day. So make sure you stick around throughout the entirety of today's show, and we'll see if you and I agree on what I have the Bengals finishing at here in 2025. But before we get into that, if you are excited for Cincinnati Bengals football, make sure you drop a like on today's show if you haven't done so already. Obviously, the offseason is very long. There's still plenty of stuff to talk about, but I think ultimately we're all ready to see Joe Burrow and the boys take the field once again and play some meaningful games and hopefully try to get back to the postseason. So, if you're excited, hit that thumbs up icon. I certainly would be hitting that thumbs up icon if I were you. Something you should do for all of our videos here at Bengals Breakdown. We greatly appreciate it. Before we fully dive into the schedule, I do want to break down the preseason games here. Obviously, the NFL is sticking with a 3-game slate as far as the preseason schedule goes. Bengals have 2 games on the road, Philadelphia, the defending Super Bowl champs, and the Washington Commanders. And then they will host the Atlanta Falcons at home on August 22nd. Obviously, we're kind of getting into the summer here, approaching the summer, and it'll be pretty quick. August will be here before we know it, and the Bengals will be playing some preseason football. That is the preseason schedule for 2025. All right, week 1. I mean, this is going to be such a massive game for Cincinnati right out of the chute. It's been well documented. The Bengals in September under Zach Taylor have not been good. If you remember a couple of years ago, it was week 1 and you went up to Cleveland. It was rainy. You had the Joe Burrow calf issue. He looked horrible, certainly didn't look like himself, and you lost a very, very ugly game to Deshaun Watson. This is massive. And I think Cincinnati is going to pick up a victory here. Offense will probably start a little bit slow. Obviously, Cleveland, they got a really good defense. I do not expect this to be a high-scoring affair. Would be surprised if it got into the 40s, but I have Cincinnati squeaking out a victory, starting out on the right foot here in 2025, and going 1-0 on the season, and 1-0, of course, in the division as well. Also very, very important. Predict the Bengals record for me in the comments section of today's show. Obviously, 17 games here. Get those record predictions for me in the comments right now. It's the pinned comment of today's show, so if that ad comes here on YouTube, that is totally fine. You can ignore it, take advantage of it. Get down in the comments. Let us know what you think. Week 2 here against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I've always been pretty high on Jacksonville compared to everyone else, and I've been wrong because Jacksonville really, apart from that postseason win they had a couple of years ago against Herbert and the Chargers, really have stunk. I think Trevor Lawrence is a really good player, but he really hasn't necessarily played to that level throughout his career in the NFL. So a very favorable start here on paper for Cincinnati, Cleveland, and then Jacksonville at home. I think they get another victory. I've got Cincinnati getting it done 32-24. Obviously, of note, I would be shocked if any of these score predictions of the 17 were correct, but it's fun to at least throw them out there and see if we hit any of them here in the month of May. But I've got Cincinnati moving to 2-0 on the season. Obviously very significant. Haven't had that kind of start in God knows how long. Cincinnati gets it done week 2, 30-24 over the Jaguars. Week 3, you are going back on the road here. It's kind of a theme you'll see early in the season here for Cincinnati. A lot of road matchups. The Vikings, of course, were an incredible football team last year, but they no longer have their quarterback. Sam Darnold is in Seattle, and it is J.J. McCarthy time in Minnesota. And I want to be very clear here. I don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to be a very good NFL quarterback whatsoever. He's got the benefit of having a great head coach in Kevin O'Connell, but I don't see McCarthy being a solid player in the NFL. And for that reason, I have Joe Burrow and the Bengals squeaking out a win on the road, 27-24. I do think it's going to be a very, very competitive game and probably come down to the wire. I think this is probably the first game where Evan McPherson has to go out and do some damage late in the game. We'll see if he can return to that 2021 form or not, or if the Bengals still have a kicking issue in 2025. 3-0 for Cincinnati through 3 games. First primetime game here, traveling to Denver. 3 of your first 4 games on the road, so obviously that is a little bit unfortunate. Monday Night Football should be awesome environment in Denver. Sean Payton, Bo Nix, last time you played him at the end of last year was arguably the best game of the NFL season in 2024. I think this one also is going to be a banger, and I've got Cincinnati pulling it off, getting a victory 32-26. I mean, the offense is just so good with the guys that they're bringing back and obviously a healthy Burrow. By the way, obviously these score predictions and these record prediction is all based on the fact that number 9 is going to stay healthy. It all goes out the door if that doesn't happen. But 30-26 here for Cincinnati, and they start out hot, 4-0 to start the 2025 campaign. Week 5 here against the Detroit Lions. It is going to be a late afternoon slot, that 4:25 slot in Cincinnati early here in the month of October. This should be awesome, and it should be offense galore between these two teams. And this is where I have Cincinnati slipping up for the first time this season and losing. Again, I think it's going to be a shootout. I got 41-38. Detroit, obviously Detroit, are they going to be as good as they were last year? Probably not. They're losing both their coordinators, right? They got some turnover, but they still have a lot of speed on that offense. And I think it's going to be too much speed for this Cincinnati Bengals defense to handle. And I think it comes down to the wire, kind of one of those games where whoever has the ball last wins. I've got Detroit getting a win here on the road, a game in which they would probably be favored. Again, as we sit here in May, we'll see. But I've got Cincinnati dropping this game. First time going undefeated in September, but then dropping here week 1 of October to Detroit. Then another tough matchup right after that. You really got kind of a tough stretch there to start your after you get the Browns and the Jags. Then you go Vikings, Broncos, Lions, Packers. That is a tough stretch there. Week 6 at Lambeau Field, and I've got Green Bay winning this football game. Again, kind of similar to what you've got on the Detroit side of the game, right? High scoring. I got 35-34 Green Bay. I've always been really, really high on Green Bay. I like Matt LaFleur and what he can do. If Jordan Love's healthy, I think he is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the National Football League. Kind of similar vibe as to what happens the week prior in Detroit. I think it kind of carries over, and you've got a little 2-game skid here that you got to bounce back from. And you got to do it on a short week. You got to go play the Pittsburgh Steelers at home on Thursday Night Football. And obviously, every time the Steelers and the Bengals go at it, it's violent, it's physical, it's AFC North style football. And I think we're going to get that kind of a game here on Thursday night. But ultimately, they're going to have a better quarterback, obviously, with Joe Burrow. And I think really those Thursday night games, I tend to favor the team with the better quarterback here. And I think it's going to be kind of a sloppy game, low scoring, physical. Tomlin's going to get his boys ready to go, get him in the game. But I think ultimately, Bengals, Joe Burrow, they make a couple of more plays and get a victory here and not lose 3 in a row. 2-point win here at home against Pittsburgh in primetime. Game here with the Jets. Now, this is kind of the first game as you kind of get into, not like the first couple of games, but now you're really in the season here in Week 8. And there probably will be a game that Cincinnati is favored and loses, and everybody's going to be in shambles in the fan base. You're kind of going to be scratching your head. Now, I don't necessarily, spoiler alert, I don't really have that happening in my predictions, and it could happen in this game, but I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say Cincinnati beats the brakes off Justin Fields and the New York Jets. Really never a doubt in this one, 32-14. Obviously, the Bengals defense going to have to play well for this to happen. We'll see if they can slow down kind of the running attack of Justin Fields, kind of a whole new situation in there in New York here for 2025. But I've got this one getting ugly, but don't be surprised if Cincinnati drops a game that they should be, a clear-cut favorite in at some point this season. I don't have it happening here in Week 8. We'll continue with our show here in a second, but do want to give a shout-out to our friends over at Fanatics. Let you guys know that Bengals Draft Hats are still out. They're still available. You can go get them. Chatsports.com/Bengals Draft Hats. They really got some cool stuff up there on Fanatics, and even have more stuff beyond hats as well. Put that link in the comment section and the description of today's show. One more time for you guys at chatsports.com/Bengals Draft Hats. Kind of a similar situation here against the Bears, right? You got them at home, right? A game in which you're going to be favored. A lot of people are really high on Chicago. I'm not there yet. Caleb Williams certainly is a great talent, but I got to see more from him before I really kind of crown him as, okay, this guy can play really good football in the National Football League. I think the Bengals are going to score a lot of points in this game, and I think they are going to win pretty easily here, 36-20 at home, advancing to 7-2 going into the bye. As we talked about on yesterday's video, I don't have any issues with a Week 10 bye here. Would you like it to be a little bit later? Maybe, right? But I think it's going to fall at a good time here for Cincinnati. They're going to have a lot of positive momentum going into the bye at 7-2, according to my prediction, and they will be off Week 10. Back at it, Week 11, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers for their second time. This one probably going to be a 1 o'clock game, and it's going to be on the road at Pittsburgh. And I got it kind of going similarly to the first game, but unfortunately I've got Pittsburgh getting the victory here in this one. I think Cincinnati's going to split against Pittsburgh this year. That's just kind of how it feels, right? Tomlin's always going to play the Bengals tough. It's always going to be a close game, right? I don't foresee any blowouts here. And I think, what Pittsburgh can do from a kicking perspective, right? Boswell, it seems like he always plays well against Cincinnati. I think they're going to kick a lot of field goals here and maybe create a couple of turnovers in this game, win the turnover battle, and Cincinnati's going to drop this game by 1 point, 18-17, dropping to 7-3 on the season. So who wins the AFC North? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Type C-I-N if you think it's the Bengals, P-I-T for the Steelers, B-A-L for the Ravens, or C-L-E for the Browns. Don't think anybody should be typing that because you're either just a troll or you're a total idiot. And I'm sorry, but I'm not really sorry for saying that because the Browns are going to be absolute garbage once again this year in 2025. But regardless, get those predictions for me in the comments of today's show. Now, Week 12, this one's going to be tough. Obviously, Week 1 last year, you had New England come to town, 1 o'clock game, you lost. New England, watch out for New England this year because Mike Vrabel's back in the game. He's their head coach, and this is a game that Vrabel would win. Now, I've got Cincinnati getting it done, 22-20. I went back and forth on this one. For a second there, I was like, hey, you know what, this might be the upset. Again, I don't have a massive upset happening here for the Cincinnati Bengals. If I had to pick one, it probably would be this one at home with Mike Vrabel coming to town. I could just see him making this game really, really ugly, letting the Cincinnati offense or slowing the Cincinnati offense down a little bit. And next thing you know, you're in a situation at the end of the game where if you can get a stop defensively, if you're New England, you're going to win the game. I don't know. I feel like this one's going to be really tough. I've got Cincinnati squeaking it out and getting it done. Upset alert, though, Week 12 here for the Bengals. Week 13, first time you are going to see Baltimore, and it's going to be on Thanksgiving night, which is a lot of fun. It's going to be kind of weird, right, seeing the Bengals play Thanksgiving night, but it should be a lot of fun as well. I have no reason to believe that the games for Baltimore against Baltimore this year are going to be different than they were last year as far as the high-scoring type of games. I think this one's going to be high-scoring. I've got Baltimore squeaking it out against Cincinnati here by a score of 33-30 as the Bengals drop to 8-4. I would be surprised if Cincinnati was able to sweep Baltimore. Really, I think the goal against these guys is just a split, right? And I don't have it happening here on the road. Stick around later in the video 2 weeks from now if Cincinnati can get it done at home. Make sure you guys hit that sub button if you haven't done so already. It's youtube.com/BengalsTV. About 100 subscribers away from getting to 19,000. We have been trying really, really hard to get here, and we are almost there. Help us out. Hit that sub button if you haven't done so already. We will have more Bengals coverage for you throughout the remainder of the offseason. Also, our watch parties, not that long away for when the season gets underway. So help us out. Hit that sub button right now. Out of all the games on the schedule, I might be the most fired up about this one. Week 14, going back to Buffalo. A couple of years ago in the divisional round when you went to Buffalo in the snow, you beat them. They had to send those refunds, right? One of my favorite games as a Bengal fan that we have experienced here. And I think you're going to beat them again, right? And of note, look at when that game is taking place. Oh, yeah, we're in December now. Joe Burrow, Zach Taylor, they don't lose in December. They win football games. And I've got them starting out on the right foot here and getting extremely hot throughout the month of December. 3-point victory in Buffalo. Joe Burrow and the Bengals make a couple of more plays than Josh Allen in what should be an incredibly entertaining game. Now, you got to play Baltimore 2 times in 3 weeks. So, that stretch is certainly going to have a big impact on how your season goes and certainly have a big impact on how the division falls out as far as the AFC North goes. I've got Cincinnati splitting here. I've got them winning here by 12 points. We've seen them score a ton of points against Baltimore before at home. Really, it seems like all those games are shootouts, but I think the defense is going to play a little bit better in this game. It's supposed to be a 1 o'clock game right now. That could change, but it should be a raucous environment. December, the Bengals play their best in December. I've got the Bengals getting it done here, 42-28, moving to 10-4. So now you're sitting there at 10-4, and you're probably in the thick of things for the division. You're kind of looking at your schedule saying, shoot, if we win out, we could be right there for the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. Big game. Bengals going down to Miami on Sunday Night Football, a matchup with Tua. And Burrow really has had Tua's number, really dating back to when they were in college. And I think he gets another win over Tua Tagovailoa here down in Miami. Maybe a little bit slower scoring than some people anticipate. Obviously, I have a lot of shootouts in here for Cincinnati. No reason to believe that there won't be, right? Because your offense is so dynamic and your defense was so bad last year. And really, you're kind of running it back with the same defense in a lot of ways. But I've got Cincinnati getting a victory here, 27-21, moving to 11-4 as they approach Christmas. Week 17 here against Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals. This is just, I mean, look, I think this is almost a guaranteed victory for Cincinnati. The second to last week of the season, they play their best at the end of the year. It's going to be a big game. Arizona's probably, at this point, I would guess, probably eliminated from the playoffs. We'll see. It's going to be a game that Cincinnati needs to win, and I don't see any way they lose this game. 29-19, Cincinnati gets it done and moves to 12-4. They're going to be playing for something here in Week 18 if the things, happen as I'm predicting here. Week 18 will be a big game for seeding purposes, maybe, depending on what, Kansas City and Baltimore and some of the other big teams in the AFC are doing. Very well could be for the 1 seed here, finishing up the season against Cleveland. And if Cincinnati has a chance to win against Cleveland and clinch the 1 seed, ain't no way they're going to lose to those boys. Again, kind of a lower scoring AFC North physical battle. It won't be easy. Cleveland defense will certainly make it hard on Cincinnati. I'll see them forcing a couple of turnovers, but ultimately too much firepower for the Bengals, and they win. And as you can see there, I've got them, winning the last 5 games there going into the postseason. And Bengals beat Cleveland 22-15 for a record of 13-4. Now, some of you guys might be like, oh, that's crazy. The defense is still going to stink. Whatever. That's fine. Bengals still went 9-8 last year. And if you remember, that defense was just a tick better. They would have won so many more games and very well could have won close to that many games last year. I know it's hard to believe, but it's just the truth of the matter. So I've got Cincinnati going 13-4 here for our first record prediction here in 2025. I expect them to be competing for the 1 seed. That is the expectation from my point of view. You have Joe Burrow. You have the best wide receiver duo in the National Football League, right? And Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You have who I believe is a really good head coach, and Zach Taylor. I know some of you guys don't agree as well. You've got a good run game. You've got good tight ends. And you're bringing in Al Golden, who I have a lot of belief in on the defensive side of the football as well. So I have very, very high expectations for Cincinnati going into 2025. I think they're going to meet them.